from places of healing to horror. For some people, the allure, even the eeriness, of abandoned places draws them to dilapidated destinations year-round. For others, visiting vacant Victorians and otherwise abandoned mansions, or scrolling through images of abandoned castles, is a yearly tradition that gets them in the Halloween spirit. And when it comes to spooky structures, it doesn't get much more creepy than abandoned hospitals and asylums. Hospitals are vacated and left to decay for a variety of reasons. Maybe a larger location is needed, buildings have been damaged and repairs are too costly, or the disease the hospital was created to treat has been eradicated. Empty, derelict hospitals can also be found in abandoned cities. Similarly, most of the psychiatric hospitals constructed in the 18th, 19th, and early 20th centuries, previously known as mental asylums, no longer exist. Their doors were closed in the second half of the 20th century, following the development of medications used to treat mental illness and the shift away from permanent institutionalization and toward a community-based model of care. But regardless of why their hallways went dark, there's something unsettling about these empty medical facilities. Even if you wanted to visit them, most are closed to the public. So we've done the next best thing and rounded up photos of some of the most chilling abandoned hospitals and asylums in the world. North Wales Hospital. Location: Denbigh, Denbighshire, Wales. Built between 1844 and 1848, the North Wales Hospital opened as a facility for Welsh-speaking people living with mental illness. Despite 3 expansions, the hospital was consistently overcrowded, reaching its peak population of more than 1,500 patients in 1948. Changes in the treatment of mental illness, especially the use of medication, left patient numbers dwindling, and the hospital announced its closure in 1987. Unfortunately, the North Wales Hospital has been abandoned since it closed in 1995, and years of neglect, vandalism, and theft have left it dilapidated. The local government hopes to restore the structures, given that the hospital is considered an exceptionally fine and pioneering example of early Victorian asylum architecture. For now, the abandoned buildings and grounds are closed to the public. Ellis Island Hospital Complex. Location: New York/New Jersey. On the south side of Ellis Island, across from the main building containing the Great Hall, and what's now an immigration museum, a hospital sat empty for more than 60 years. From 1902 through 1930, the sprawling, 29-building complex was the largest U.S. public health service institution. By the time it closed in 1951, roughly 1.2 million of the 12 million immigrants who passed through Ellis Island were treated in the state-of-the-art facility. But unlike many abandoned hospitals, this one has been welcoming visitors since 2015. That's when the nonprofit Save Ellis Island first began offering hard-hat tours of the derelict hospital buildings, including the infectious and contagious disease ward, the kitchen, staff housing, the morgue, and the laundry building where more than 3,000 pieces of laundry were once washed and sanitized daily. Proceeds from the tours go toward the continuing preservation and restoration of the complex. Beelitz Heilstätten. Location: Beelitz, Germany. Some abandoned hospitals are creepy because of the way nature has taken over the formerly sanitized halls and once state-of-the-art medical equipment, but Germany's Beelitz Heilstätten is infamous for other reasons. The complex was built in 1898, in a forest about 30 miles outside the growing metropolis of Berlin, to treat city residents with tuberculosis. As Berlin became increasingly crowded, so did Beelitz Heilstätten. In 1928, the sanatorium expanded to accommodate 1,300 patients, with new buildings including a surgical hospital, a laundry, and a shopping arcade with a cobbler, stationer, soap workshop, bakery, and tailor. During World War I, Beelitz Heilstätten was converted into a military hospital, where patients sent to recuperate after illness or injury included a young soldier from Austria named Adolf Hitler. It remained in Germany's hands throughout World War II, until the Red Army took over the site in 1945. From 1945 through 1994, Beelitz Heilstätten was the largest Soviet military hospital outside the USSR. The final years at Beelitz Heilstätten weren't exactly peaceful. Between 1989 and 1991, a serial killer murdered 5 women and a baby on the grounds. And in December 1990, Erich Honecker, the deposed leader of East Germany, and his wife took refuge there. The Soviet army withdrew in 1994, and the hospital complex has sat eerily empty since. The Khovrino Hospital Complex. Location: Moscow, Russia. Fans of brutalist architecture may be aware of the massive Khovrino Hospital Complex in northern Moscow. Construction of the medical facility, aka the Umbrella, began in 1980 but encountered a variety of problems, causing a 5-year stall in progress. Though construction picked up again, the project was abandoned in 1992 due to a lack of funding, and it became a playground for everyone from urban explorers to graffiti artists to local occultists, who the Moscow Times reports were rumored to use the hospital for meetings. The fact that from above, the complex resembled a biological hazard sign didn't help, nor did reports that several people died falling from the 11-story structure. The somewhat gloomy complex was demolished in 2018, making way for a new apartment building. Severals Hospital. Location: Colchester, Essex, England. Located just north of Colchester, England, Severals Hospital, originally known as the 2nd Essex County Asylum, opened its doors in 1913, housing up to 1,250 patients in 22 ward blocks. By 1937, 4 additional blocks had been added, bringing the capacity up to 2,000. In 1942, the German army bombed Severals Hospital, killing 38 female patients. Other tragedies within the hospital's walls included the use of experimental treatments, like prefrontal lobotomies, on patients in the 1940s and 50s. Let's just say, if this doesn't creep you out, you might want to try a night at one of America's most haunted hotels. The patient population of Severals gradually declined throughout the 1970s, then dropped rapidly following deinstitutionalization initiatives in the early 80s. Buildings no longer in use were shuttered until the last elderly patients moved out of the hospital when it closed in 1997. After sitting abandoned for 2 decades, demolition began on some buildings to make room for new housing. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to channel. See you next time.